The offshore oil rig loomed like a giant steel monster in the pitch-black night, surrounded by the unforgiving expanse of the open ocean. The relentless waves crashed against its massive pillars, creating an eerie symphony of creaks and groans that seemed to reverberate through the very soul of the rig. The wind howled relentlessly, carrying with it a sense of foreboding that sent shivers down the spines of the crew members who called this desolate place home. On this particular night, a violent storm was brewing on the horizon, promising to unleash its fury upon the isolated platform. The crew had been warned to prepare for the worst, but as the night wore on, it became clear that this storm was unlike anything they had ever seen. The sky above raged with lightning, casting eerie, fleeting shadows across the rig's deck. Amidst the chaos of the storm, a group of 5 workers huddled in the control room, their faces etched with fear. Mark, the seasoned rig manager, tried to maintain an air of authority, but his trembling hands betrayed his anxiety. "Listen, everyone," Mark said, his voice wavering. "We need to make sure everything is secured. The rig can handle this storm. We've been through worse." But just as he finished speaking, a deafening crash echoed through the rig, causing the crew to jump in terror. The lights flickered, and the control room plunged into darkness for a moment before emergency lighting kicked in. Mark grabbed a flashlight and rushed to the control panel, his heart racing. "We've lost power to the eastern quadrant," he announced. "We need to get it back online before things get worse." Crew members nodded and reluctantly left the relative safety of the control room. As they ventured into the darkness, the howling wind seemed to carry whispers of dread, and the relentless rain lashed at their oil-stained overalls. In the eastern quadrant, they discovered a scene of utter chaos. Equipment lay scattered, and the sound of metal scraping against metal filled the air as the rig rocked violently in the storm. Their flashlights illuminated a gruesome sight. One of their colleagues, Jake, lay motionless on the ground, his body twisted at an unnatural angle. "Oh my God," Sarah gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "Is he—" Mark knelt beside Jake and felt for a pulse, but there was none. He shook his head grimly. "He's gone. We can't do anything for him now. We need to get that power back on and get back to the control room." As the crew worked frantically to restore power, strange and unsettling sounds echoed through the rig. Whispers, disembodied footsteps, and the distant clank of chains. The crew members exchanged nervous glances but pressed on, convinced it was just their fear playing tricks on their minds. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they managed to restore power to the eastern quadrant. But just as they were about to make their way back to the control room, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air. They turned to see Emily, their radio operator, standing at the edge of the platform, staring into the churning sea below. "Emily, what's wrong?" Mark shouted. She didn't respond, her eyes fixed on something in the dark waters. The crew rushed to her side, shining their flashlights into the abyss. What they saw sent terror coursing through their veins, a grotesque, nightmarish creature with slimy, pale flesh and tentacle-like appendages rose from the depths and reached out towards Emily. In their panic, they grabbed Emily and pulled her away from the edge just in time, but the creature's ghastly, pale face haunted their nightmares. They fled back to the control room, their hearts pounding, leaving behind the eastern quadrant and the horrors that lurked there. The storm raged on, and as the crew huddled in the control room, they realized that they were not alone on the rig. Unseen forces seemed to be toying with them, whispering in their ears and dragging their deepest fears to the surface. As the night wore on, the crew members clung to each other, their flashlight beams flickering in the darkness, and the offshore oil rig became a nightmarish battleground where the line between reality and horror blurred beyond recognition. They were trapped in a living nightmare, battling not only the relentless storm, but the malevolent forces that lurked in the shadows of the offshore oil rig. And as dawn approached, they could only hope to survive long enough to see the light of day once more.